In just 4 months, come October, Peak 2024 will be happening live in Nashville, Tennessee, North America's premier sales coaching conference. We had some fun with two of our featured speakers, Doug Landis and Donald Kelly. Doug is an authority in the PE VC space, and Donald, aka the sales evangelist, wrote the book on social selling. Stay tuned to hear their answers to questions like, would you rather have dinner with Oprah or Taylor Swift, and many more coming up next.
I'm extremely excited and honored to have these two guys, featured speakers at Peak 2024, here with me on Coach's Corner today. The coolest part about this is both Donald and Doug have spoken at Peak in years past, and they run their own businesses. If you've never heard of Peak, it's an annual sales coaching conference hosted by Ambition in Nashville, Tennessee, where sales leaders from companies of all shapes and sizes come together for one single day to go over the most current and innovative best practices when it comes to sales coaching. This year, we're going to talk about how world-class coaching can help go-to-market effectiveness, culture and people development, and lastly, yes, how AI can help humans be better coaches. But enough of me talking. Let's get into it. Doug, do you want to kick us off? Tell the audience a little bit about yourself and then something unique outside of work that you're really passionate about.
Whoa, something unique that I'm passionate about. Well, hey, what's up, everybody? Doug Landis here. I'm so excited to be coming back to Peak again, coming back to what I like to call maybe like a third or fourth home, Nashville, Tennessee. I love it out there. Not right now because it's disgustingly hot, but yeah, if y'all don't know me, if I'm just getting to know you, I am Doug Landis. I'm the CEO of DL Advisory. We're an early stage consulting organization. I basically help founders and early stage go-to-market teams tell their company, customer, and personal stories. I was the chief storyteller at Box after a long run in helping some pretty significant companies figure out how to scale and grow. That includes Google, Oracle, Salesforce, Box, et cetera. Joined the dark side, was in venture for a long time, working with early stage companies. Navigate the kind of murky and turbulent waters of building and scaling companies. And one of the things that I found pretty consistently over and over again is a lot of people kind of suck at telling their stories, whether that's telling a customer story, their own personal story, their product story, their aha moment, their, gosh, I love this product and can't live without it kind of story. A lot of people are really not great at it. And this understanding of like how to build and construct a narrative to actually use it in conversations is kind of like a sweet spot of mine. I think it comes largely from the fact that I'm also a professionally trained actor. What do you know? A lot of people didn't know that. Went to Gene Shelton's Actors Lab. I started acting when I was like 5, and been in a whole bunch of stuff. We can get into that later. What am I passionate about outside of telling stories and helping people shape their narratives? I am really passionate about golf. I'm passionate about technology and I'm passionate about golf. Those two things. There you go.
I was gonna say the golf. My golf clubs they're in the car right now. As you can tell, I'm calling from the garage today. I wanted to change up the scenery. Really, I'm sick and my wife kicked me out of the house. That's the truth.
Smart on every level, and smart to have your golf clubs in the car. I do too. They live there, so always ready to go.
You never know, being in Florida, when you can have an emergency golf. And being sick, emergency golf may or may not happen later today, twilight hours. So I run an organization called a Sales Evangelist, and I figured I wanted to get the Amazon feel. You know, they started in the garage. We have an office, but I'm working from home, and I'm literally physically in the garage today. But we run a sales training organization, and we typically help. Most of our clients are SMBs, mid-level organization who are in the tech space or doing some kind of technology sale that need help with top of funnel activities. We offer cohort training to help with like LinkedIn prospecting, cold outbound outreach, and all of the above with that. And we do also do some group coaching and sales masterminds as well. And as a keynote speaker, take a lot of I do a lot of that, and it's something that I probably say most people probably don't know about me. So unique about me that no one probably knows. You can probably tell from some of the stuff behind me here. So I have my beach chairs. We're staycation folks in Florida, so we like doing that. But something you probably don't know: I grew up in Jamaica and lived here in South Florida. Born in Jamaica, live in South Florida, and I don't like seafood. So I kind of a waste of a South Floridian taking up space here for people who like seafood. But I hear it's great.
That's unique. That is
Hey,
unique.
hey, you know what, Donald? You can always just say like, I like seafood. It's just a different kind. I see food and I eat it.
I eat it, man. Well, here's the thing. I went to this. I won't tell you who, but it was. I went to this guy's house. He was a politician, and we have many of them here in South Florida. And I had Chilean sea bass, and it was absolutely amazing. And I was like, "This is fish," and yeah. So I can eat a Chilean sea bass. I'll taste anything once. Just doesn't know if I don't know if I like it, but Chilean sea bass, I'll make that myself. I'll appreciate it.
All right.
Well, Tennessee's a landlocked state, so when you're here in October for peak, you don't have to worry about seafood because we're not going to feed it to you at the dinner before peak.
Yes, another reason why
what
I'm
is
going.
hold on, what is what's famous Tennessee food? Like, what is it? Is it because like in New Orleans you got like crawfish, you like Texas you got beef, meat.
Yeah,
What's Tennessee? Yeah, like Tennessee. What do y'all got?
It is so Nashville specifically is Nashville hot chicken. So you're
Yeah.
going to hear that. I got to raise my hand and be honest. I'm a transplant from Buffalo, New York. So I represent the chicken wing before anything. But the Nashville hot chicken is definitely the staple food in Nashville. And then when you move to other parts of the state, you got Memphis barbecue, right? You have some
yeah.
barbecue in other parts of the state.
That's fair.
That's
fair.
It's Memphis
Nashville hot
barbecue
chicken.
for sure.
Is Nashville hot chicken? Is it just like? Is it the sauce? Is it like what they do? Like, what is it?
It's
I'm
the
having
seasoning.
it when I come out.
Yeah, it's the seasoning and the all the touristy spots in Nashville overrated. I'll call it out. So we'll make sure to take you to some of those spots that no one's going to. The hole in the wall where
I love that.
It's the same lady that's been cooking it for 50 years. We'll get you.
Yeah, I love it.
But yeah, if anything, Memphis barbecue takes the prize as the best food in the state. So
that's what I was always associated in Tennessee with. I lived in I sold security door to door one summer, and we lived in Olive Branch, Mississippi. I think it's all, and so that's a border right there between Memphis, and I gained 10 pounds that summer because I'm telling you, we were walking around all day selling security, but I don't know how I still gained 10 pounds between Buffalo Wild Wings and going to Rendezvous or BB King barbecue. I gain weight.
It's funny, man.
Yeah.
We eat well in the South. I'm not gonna lie there. So, well, gentlemen, awesome having you guys on.
Sure.
Let's have some fun. Let's get into some pretty lighthearted rounds of Would You Rather. We're gonna start with so the game's simple. I'm gonna give you an option of Would You Rather. Pick what you prefer and then give a little bit of the why. Would you rather have an AI tool to help you with outbound prospecting or coaching sales reps?
Prospecting. Coaching sales reps is a much more personal. I think in the prospecting domain, there's a lot of like activities that you have to do, whether it's gathering information, looking for signal, looking for insight. That just takes a lot of time and effort. It feels like it's a lot easier to do with AI. To me, coaching is a much more one-on-one relationship, and I'm way more interested in that relationship that I have with my team. I also know the nuances of each person that is specific to how they like to receive feedback, how they actually like, how often and how quickly they want coaching. I'm much more into the personal relationship. I choose the prospecting side.
And I think it depends on what the tool is going to do, but I'll probably say Doug's answer, but flopped. I would much rather have, I feel for the personalization, I'd much rather have a AI tool that will help me with coaching to help me to do a better job at that. And for prospecting, I'll still do my traditional prospecting. It's a camp we're in, right? A LinkedIn world and that outbound. And I love to hunt. Like the other day, I booked an appointment with this large city here in West Palm Beach that we're doing a partnership with. and it's really dope and really exciting that that hunt was there. So I personally love the hunt, and I don't want to give that up. But I do want AI to do some of the work for me to help me gather and do the research, so I can make sure I can do that better. And I get a lot of gripe from people who are disenchanted with the idea of AI doing their like the AI emails or the robocalls or AI calls. Like, I mean, I think there's a level of where we can see that in the future. I don't know if it's quite there yet, and I think that authenticity is necessary at the top. When it comes towards the coaching, if I can have an AI tool that help me to better understand and do some of the work for me to give me the gongs and like your tools of the world that give me an idea of how people are responding to a call. It's just really tough when we're coaching a team of like 10, 15 individuals to be able to go and listen to each call. But if I can have a way of being able to get that help and say, here are some areas, and then I can go to those areas and I can listen, that helps me out a little bit more. So
excited to dive in and like hear more from folks like you. Is every sales leader that I speak to has this like intrigue with AI, but it's all very preliminary. Like I don't talk to a lot of people that have AI strategy that's just huffing and puffing and the train's rolling. And I think we're going to hear from some experts in October they have the train rolling and they are really utilizing it. There's a lot of discovery around a lot of these softwares, whether it's a Gong or Ambition that is a much more than an AI type tool, right? It's call recording, it's coaching. And then AI is kind of assisting with the software versus just a standalone piece of AI tech. I think a lot of leaders don't, and I'm one of them, don't really have the full picture. So we're gonna rip that at Peak, and I'm excited for it. Next question though, and if someone is prospecting you and trying to set a meeting with you, would you rather be cold called or cold emailed, and why?
I probably would say, it's a good one. I probably would say cold called, because if you can email, I think it's more convenient for sure, but I think it can tell a person's true skill, like in that cold call scenario. Can you, within that 5 seconds that you have, between the moment I answer the call, how can you grab my attention, make it relevant, and help me, and then intrigue me enough to be interested in your value proposition? Like that first 7 seconds, 10 seconds is critical. And I do accept calls. I'll answer my phone, and it's good when I can get a good one. But I probably would say cold call, if it's going to be a really good seller. If you just wishy-washy, you don't know what you're talking about, don't waste the time on a cold call.
I agree. And hopefully not every sales rep that listens to this is going to call you now. But
I know, right? I'm looking at the phone.
Right.
Here we go.
We won't put your phone number. We won't put your phone number in the note.
You got 5 seconds.
Doug, over to you.
I mean, I totally appreciate the conversation and that like kind of the first 30 seconds. I think that's kind of fun. So I do answer the phone as well, but I totally prefer email. Email, I can dissect what's really, you can see in the first, 2 lines, whether or not somebody actually has done any level of homework, whether or not they're educated, they have a point of view. I can see that in seconds. In a call, I kind of feel like, I'd love to have a conversation if they're good and if they're engaging, but 9 times out of 10, it's out of context in terms of where I am in the moment. And so I have to like context switch to like engage in a conversation and have that call. And it's usually way more disrupting. An email, I can control the environment more in terms of when I read it, what I do with it, how I respond, how I engage. So it just gives me more control. And I guess I'm a bit of a control freak. So there you go.
You know what I like about that too, Doug, is the fact like you can get more intel, right, from the email standpoint, because whenever somebody sends me an email, I go back and look at their domain, and then I Google the domain if it's intriguing enough, right? They caught my attention.
Sure.
And then I can do
or
some
you
quick
look
research.
them up on LinkedIn,
Yes.
or like you're like, wait, who else do I know? Why might this be relevant?
Yeah.
I'll be like, hey, Donald, I see you're connected to this person. What do you know about it? Right. This looks really interesting. Maybe I go to the website. Maybe I forget their email. I go to the website. I'm like, wow, this looks interesting. And I see like you're connected or involved, you're advising them. I'm like, hey, I'll shoot you a note. And then I'm kind of doing all my own research on the side. I could go down a rabbit hole on the whole space. You're like, wow, I didn't even know this is a thing. Holy cow. And then, maybe I'll go back to the email and be like, whatever, I'm not interested in that, but I'm interested in the space now. And
Yeah.
so like, it gives me, but by the way, I could also do that, at 4 a.m. when I get up versus, having to do it right now when you sent me the note at 9:22 in the morning.
Yeah.
Right. So it just gives me more flexibility.
And I think there's with that, what we look at is like, if I think the cold call works great after you have that point of reference. In our training, that's what we kind of go back to, because then, like say we connect on LinkedIn, we start that convo. I think that's when that, you could, if you could come back and do that value prop after that, I think that makes a bigger difference. And that call doesn't necessarily become cold anymore. It's almost like a warm call to some extent.
I have a lot of reps. One thing I enjoy is when someone asks me what's my preferred channel. Hey Brian, I know like if they cold call me, like I know I got you out of the blue today. When I reach out again, like do you prefer email? If we're connected on LinkedIn, is that more convenient for you? Like everyone's different. I think the takeaway here is everybody's different. And obviously that's why you use all of those channels together. So good. I'm with both of y'all on that. Here's a weird one.
Uh-oh.
I don't know. Maybe I'm dating us because I don't know how variable it is in today's world. But when I got into sales, there were jobs that had no base salary and high commission, or high base salary and no commission. So, Doug, I'll have you start with this one. Would you rather have a high base salary with no commission, or a low base salary with high commission potential, and why?
Me personally, or would I rather have my organization set up in which this is 2 parts, right? So there's look, it depends. If I'm an individual contributor and look, I love the market that I'm in, and I love what I'm selling. Like, no, I want lower base and all commission. Like, give me the ball, coach. I want to take it. It's pretty clear. I'm kind of a control freak. I want to control my own destiny. If I'm a manager or a leader, I think it's a little bit more, I want to shift that, right? So if I'm a manager of if I'm an RVP, AVP, what have you, I want it to be a little bit more reoriented, largely because if I've got 10 people on my team that I'm managing, or maybe even more, we know the variability in terms of performance. AEs could potentially make a ton, but the reality is 60% of my team's likely, maybe less than 75% of their number, unfortunately. So I'm going to be focusing on them. My ability to actually really crush it and make a ton of money as a manager is a lot less. The frontline manager is the hardest job in the entire company, because you're getting pulled in 18 different directions. So I'd much rather have a much bigger base, like an 80. I'm a huge believer in this 80-20 model. Like, give me 80% of my OTE and 20% variable based on specific kind of objectives that we determine and we define, largely because I know whether you're an SDR, you're an AE, or you're a manager, there's so many things that are required of you that are not measurable in terms of deals closed. But fundamentally, we're paying you for your deal your win rate. That's important. But I also want to make sure that we're not discounting all the other stuff that you do in your role that should be appropriately compensated. I don't want you to freak out about the fact that you've got to go build pipeline, right, when it's the end of the month. And you're like, well, look, I still, the number still wins, and I need you to hit your number, but I also want to make sure that there's appropriate compensation for the other things that we're asking you to do. So it depends on if it's me or if it's a team.
Yeah, that was a good answer. Donald, what do you think?
If I'm the seller, it depends on the product that I'm selling. So let's go back to my days again. I sold security door to door. And you have pest control people, and I came out of school out of BYU, so it's like they breed all of those companies out there, right?
Oh yeah.
So I could go to a city,
Take
and if I can go to a city, and I can sell, like when I did security door to door, it was really tough. It was tough mentally to accept it, that it's only full commission, because the other stuff I've done, I was making base and commission. But let's say that now I'm getting $500 per sale, and I know I can get 1 or 2 sales per day. That's $1,000 a day, and it's a short sales cycle. But let's say I'm selling a complex software solution that's a 6-7 month sales cycle. I can have the high commission is great, but it sucks if I'm going to eat only in 9 months from now. I'd much rather have that base with that commission with a longer sales cycle like that. But if it's something that I can sell in a short period of time, the sales cycle within that month, all day, every day, give me a high commission, low base. And I have friends that did that with like the security world. That's why I did it. I was trying to get a non-paid internship in New York, and I needed money quick. And I made more money than my mom made the whole year in 3 months. And I was like, this is dope. So it was fun.
I love that.
You bring up a really good point though about like the price of the product itself that you're selling.
Yeah.
If it is a 6-figure plus deal and it's a 9-12 month sales cycle, you're basically living on your base for those 9-12 months, and that could be tough in some situations. Right?
Yeah.
Now, again, it also depends on what the variability is and what kind of what your commission rate is, and if it's capped or uncapped, and all those other things that you can play with, all those other little dials that you can play with. But it's a good question. It's important to think about.
And it's fun too when you think about if you have industry experience with that particular solution already. I'm all about give me that low base, and depending on your in marital situation or if you have a partner or whatnot, they can help with some of that funding for those 9 months. It's great. Or if you have some stuff change in a bank, sell one of your bitcoins. So if I know I'm gonna make some money at the end of the year with this big figure item, like all day, every day.
I think that's really good insight, especially for newer reps or people breaking into commission-based jobs, because those are things that sometimes you don't think about when you're 23, fresh out of college, and you get this 150 grand OTE, 30/70, and you don't know that the sales cycle 6 months, and you're not even if you do great, right? Even if you do fantastic, you're not seeing a commission check for 9 months. So
well. There's a couple other variables here too that we're not even talking about. Pipeline. Like, I'm not taking an all commission job if I don't have there's no pipeline. If you haven't proven that this thing we can actually sell this thing, and there's no pipeline, then I have to go spend 80% of my time trying to generate pipeline. I'm not actually closing any deals, so I'm pushing my deal cycles out even longer because I'm trying to generate some awareness and some interest in what we're doing. So like, if we don't have proven success already and we don't have pipeline, then I want a higher base, because I'm going to spend more time kind of proving it out. So, Brian, to your point, these are things that you have to consider. 23-year-old kid going into a role where it's, even if it's 50-50, you just got to recognize that 150K OTE, you're making 75K, and you should expect to live off that for the next 12 months. Can you do that?
Yes.
And Doug said something earlier about the manager, right? The impact a manager has. It's the hardest job in an org. We have this line over here, they're the force multiplier. I'm a big believer in the 80-20 breakdown for a manager, because what that incites is having the manager truly coach and develop the reps and teach them how to fish, versus it's the end of the month and half my commission's tied up in this deal. I'm not teaching Donald. I'm jumping in and I'm heroing the deal and closing it myself. That rep never develops and grows. So like, I think it fosters just a healthier culture of growth when the manager isn't worried about that at the end.
I think the golden rule you always have to consider is incentives drive behavior, period.
Yes.
So what behavior are you trying to incentivize, and why, and is that in line with kind of where the product and the company and the market is?
Yeah. Good stuff, gentlemen. Let's we're gonna do one more would you rather, and we're gonna pan out of the sales rabbit hole we just went down, which I love. All right. I'm excited to hear y'all's responses. They're both born in Nashville. Would you rather have dinner with Oprah or Taylor Swift, and why?
I would say Taylor Swift. And the reason why, Oprah, I think Oprah's playbook has been shared. We've seen that before, but we've seen that. We got to where we got behind the curtains there, but Taylor's playbook, from where she started, she has one of the things that made her so effective was her ability to connect with her community. She has a great way of doing that, writing songs and so forth. Like, the savvy business mind that she has to mass the fame that she has, I would like to get down and figure out what Tay-Tay is doing in the background, like how the system is set up, and where, how does she thought about this from a business perspective for her career to accomplish what she's done at such a young age. compared to Oprah did her things over time, and got where she's at. But yeah, I want to see what's going on in Tay-Tay.
Okay, Donald on Team Swifty. I love it. Doug,
Go
what do you
Team
think?
Swifty.
You're a Swiftie. I am not a Swiftie. It's funny, Donald. I think our answers have been opposite every time, which is hilarious.
See, this is good. This is
I know.
the contrarian approach. You don't want to
totally. I appreciate it. I'm Team Oprah all the way, all the way. Interestingly enough, she's a known entity, but I think a lot of people don't really understand her story, her background, her trauma, her journey through a lot of trauma as a child. And she has done more for like advocacy in terms of child development, child work around childhood trauma, more than most people even understand and realize. And so like, I'd love to sit down and spend time with her and really dig into that. Because look, mental health is a real issue right now. We are in an epidemic of loneliness. We are in an epidemic of like serious suffer of trauma. And that affects how we show up. It affects how we show up at work. It affects how we show up in our personal lives. And while Taylor Swift is cool and interesting, and I think she's got a fascinating story as being an incredible entertainer and a really, really savvy business professional, I'm much more into like the deep, soulful, like I want to get into the weeds of like childhood trauma stuff with Oprah. I'm currently reading this book called What Happened to You, which is super fascinating, that she's kind of co-author of. So so given the fact that I'm reading that right now, I'm like, oh yeah, I got questions for you. Especially how the book opens. It's like, whoa, really? Wow, you got some stories to tell.
Man, I was not expecting such great answers on that question. that was awesome.
I did an episode series on bestsellers in history. It was like 3 years ago. And I put Oprah as one of them. So we did some studies on her and went deep into her background. Like, she may not be a traditional seller, but she was selling, like to sell the show and to sell the ideas.
Oh, yeah.
From where she came from. It's like if sellers can follow her, the tenacity and drive, I think that would help. And it's really motivational and inspiring. One of my practices I run every day. Well, no, let's back up. Let's not lie. I run as regularly, and I will listen to get worked out, and then I listen to like something motivational, like a YouTube video. And I think it's something that we have not adopted as much in current years as sellers, where we abandon that motivational stuff because this game is really psychological. But the concept of listening to a motivational person such as Oprah, the story and how they got to where they are, it's intriguing with it. So, yeah.
There's a psychological part of this job more than ever. I want to say pre-pandemic mindset was this thing you saw a lot on LinkedIn. Mindset, mindset seller. And I feel like we don't hear that as much. We don't. We should. And it's more now. We need it now more than ever, in my opinion.
100%. 100%. Well, because there's so much more noise out there, especially with all these, people are like confused. Is this a bot? Is this real? Is this really Donald reaching out to me? I don't really know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get involved and engaged. I feel like no is much more prevalent answer than it was before. It's also because things are not frothy anymore as they were for 15 years, right? So it's like when things are frothy and you've got some space and time and you maybe have some budget and you're thinking ahead, you're like, cool, I'll have that conversation. Right now, it's like, no, I'm not taking any risks. Yeah, I got to head down, get focused, and yeah, this sounds interesting and all, but no, I don't have time for this.
Yeah, that's the truth. Well, we're going to move into our next game, and basically, I'm going to ask you guys to put someone else's shoes on. But I know both of you have experience in these questions I'm going to ask. So, the first one's for Doug. Doug, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of a founder, CEO of a startup. You just got your Series A round of funding. How should you think about utilizing those dollars in 2024 in order to maximize for growth?
Well, I mean, this I know this really well. So, I mean, the very first question is, if I just raise my Series A round of funding, that means most likely I've proven that I've got some level of product market fit. Now I'm gonna need to switch into kind of go to market fit. So typically it means I'm going to kind of double down and accelerate the growth and the size of my go to market organization, because I've proven that the product actually works. I've proven that there's a market. I've proven that there's a willingness to buy, or people have a willingness to pay for what we have. I understand the market dynamics a little bit more. So look, I'm always going to double down on product. I always want to make sure that product kind of leads the organization. That's just me. Funny enough, as a sales professional, I still like, if the product is not able to deliver on the value that the market is demanding from the market's perspective, then it's really hard for everybody else, especially on the go-to-market side, right? I've been in environments where we're selling vaporware. It's literally selling a canned, Figma demo before there was Figma. And it's like, yeah, this is what it's gonna do for you, but it doesn't really do it right now. So product leads. So I want to make sure that product is stable and we have a path to growth, but I'm focusing on building out the go-to-market engine and how do we accelerate? Because at the end of the day, I'm probably sitting at about $1 million in revenue and I'm trying to push the company up to 3, and then I'm maybe going to try and push to 6. Notice how I'm not saying 9. Sorry, all you VC partners out there. The triple, double is gone. Doesn't really work anymore in this environment. I want to focus on growing efficiently. So like, I'm going to be really smart about where I'm doubling down. I'm going to look for ways in which I can use technology to augment actually happen to hire additional folks. So that's kind of where my head is. Right now, I mean, at the end of the day, the customer's at the center of everything that I do. So I want to make sure that the decisions that I'm making as an organization are centered around our customers and what they need and what they're sharing with us. And that information needs to go back to product, engineering, marketing, sales, customer success, the whole kind of ethos. So to me, it's like, okay, so if I go to the board, or if maybe we're having to pivot a bit from a product perspective, at the core, if I can say, well, this is what our customers are asking for, this is what our customers are sharing with us, then I feel comfortable that I'm doing the right thing.
That is the kind of like expertise and that you can't just turn to somebody in your regular day and get. So like being able to, if you're in charge of growth at a Series A, that kind of wisdom, like you're going to be at the happy hour. Doug's a wine guy, so you're going to be having a glass of wine with him. And that's the gems you're going to get, so super helpful. Couldn't have asked for a better answer. And what else would you double down there?
Brian, what's really interesting is, Series A founders oftentimes will be like, so what do we build this? We're thinking about doing this. I get that question all the time. We're thinking about doing this. What do you think? And I every time, why are you asking me? Go talk to your customers. And they look at me and be like, huh? Really? And I'm like, yes. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know your business as well. I don't know the market. I'm not using your product every day. I'm not using your competitor's product. I'm not using whatever. I'm not using Excel to do this job. Like, go talk to your customers. I think the challenge is most people don't, especially founders, they don't know how to talk to their customers. Well, what do I say? How do I get them to respond? How do I know when I'm asking for too much versus not enough? Nobody has really taught founders, CEOs, how to engage and work with their customers, how to build a customer advisory board, how to actually work with advisors. I'm advising a ton of companies right now, and I'm telling them, I'm like, we're going to meet 1 hour every other week. You bring the agenda, you bring the questions, you bring the perspective. By the way, I might tell you, go talk to your customers, just so you know. Default answer, because most early stage founders just don't do that. So there needs to be some education on how to actually do that, and how to do that from the perspective of like, I want to talk about product, and then I want to talk about market, and I want to talk about go-to-market, right? There's different threads you need to anchor the conversations around. It can't just be like, okay, show up and throw up. Let me ask you 50 questions that are all over the map. You need to be hyper-focused in your conversations.
Why do you think that is? Why something that, talk to your customers, right? Something that sounds so simple. Why do you think that's a big miss in that realm?
I mean, a lot of founders are product folks. They're product engineers. They come from the product side. They're not used to having these kind of what I would call they're not used to having customer facing conversations. They're just not. That's why if you find, CEOs that used to be sales leaders, that you feel like the culture of the company is much more of a sales led, go to market led culture, right? If you're a product engineering founder and you're building product and maybe you've got a PLG motion, you're like, well, I don't really need to talk to customers. I'm just cranking product. The problem is they don't, a lot, It's gonna get a little dicey here, but like there's a lot of founders that are full of a ton of ego, and they think they know what's right. They think that they know this is what we need to build, this is how we're going to prioritize, this is what the market wants. And it's like, okay, guess what, that got you this far. It's not going to get you to the next tranche. It's not going to get you to build $100 million run rate company, because your customers actually will dictate that. And I think it takes a certain kind of leader to learn that early. And just a lot of folks they got to get out of there. They got to learn how to get out of their own way and get uncomfortable about having those conversations.
Yeah, being comfortable being uncomfortable. I know it's a cliche, but it truly is powerful. Donald, would you add anything there?
No, I think you're 100% right on that. When you were talking about it, I was thinking on like the sales leaders that I find. I mean, the CEOs that I've worked with that were like the product person. It was all about like we got to create this, we got to fix this, and not so much about the relationship. And here's the other part to that too. I think it's one of the you asked the question to Doug why. I think it's because why people don't do it. I think it's because it's so obvious that they don't do it. Because it's not that can't be the answer. Such a logical, simple answer that you need to talk to your customers. It will be more. It'll be more effective to get that consultant idea. If I can get a consultant like Doug to give me his theories, I'll pay for that. But to talk to the individuals that are out there, and I feel like they probably put themselves in a buyer's shoe where sometimes I don't respond to the surveys that are sent to me, even for companies that I really do like. I just feel like, oh man, it's going to take away from my time. But it's not surveys, and I think it goes back to what you're saying, that advisory board. When I feel somebody's values my opinion, and I'm an advisor to them or a customer advisory board, I'm more than willing to give insights and information on that. And I think that takes way more work than just like, hey, fill out this MailChimp survey for us about our company. You're going to get the MailChimp survey results.
I also feel like they feel like there's a little bit of risk there. Like, hey, if I talk to my customers and I'm asking them for their opinion, they're trusting me to be kind of the expert. And now I'm asking them, they're gonna be like, wait a minute, why are you asking me this? Don't you already know this? Isn't this already part of your product roadmap? Isn't this why we invested in this solution? Right. So there's like, maybe there's a little fear. I mean, typically we most of the time we choose not to do certain things purely out of fear than it is out of like, the love for our own product. And in this particular case, I think there's just, maybe they're afraid that they might, taint the relationship. But look, all the great CEOs that I've worked with had no problem. In fact, we had to pull them back more often. It was like, you know what? Mm-hmm. In these deals, once we start talking, commercials, you're out. You're not involved. Get the hell out of the room. Aaron Levy, Mark Benioff, I don't care who you are. Get out of the room. Let us take over the actual negotiations, because it's amazing how much CEOs love to just give shit away. It's crazy.
Get in their own way.
Totally.
Yeah, it definitely. I definitely think that fear aspect is something that sometimes it's hard to hear the truth. We're gonna round it out, gentlemen. Donald, last question is for you. Put yourself in the shoes of a new sales rep. The sales rep isn't getting the coaching that they need. They're struggling to succeed, but they have the drive, they have the passion. They want to do really well, but for lack of a better term, their manager stinks. What are some recommendations as a guy that literally the sales evangelist is created to help people sell better? What are some recommendations you have for this brand new sales rep on where to go? There are so many podcasts, pieces of content, creators, advisors, consultants, sales boot camps. Like, what advice do you have for someone that doesn't know where to go, but they want to get coached, they want to get helped, but they don't have it? They don't have a manager that can do that for them.
This will be ultra biased, but of course they need to go to the sales evangelist. But if not, here's what I would tell you to do, because this goes back to what I did. The first thing, and this may be hard for them to understand, because they feel that when you're 22 and you're in your first job, you feel like this is where I'm going to plant for a while. But studies show that average BDR is sticking around a place for 18 months to 24 months. So it's totally appropriate and fine. You need to ask yourself, is this the right place for me? Because there are companies out there that will have a right culture. And if you want to find those people, you want to find those organizations that have the right culture, you can easily go and connect with your peers or connect with folks out there. You can also use different tools like RepView or whatnot to be able to identify companies that have great cultures that you can take advantage of. Take advantage of glass doors. Sell yourself into these companies. I've never seen an organization that say they will not hire a good salesperson. If you're a great salesperson, they're going to find the money to be able to give that to you if you have great potential. So sell yourself into an organization. So the first thing I would say is this may not necessarily be the right home. And this is coming from a person who did exactly what you're talking about. Like you're talking about young DK when I was doing managed service providers. I was selling for this managed service company. I had, all the energy in the world. I'm excited and gun ho, but I didn't have the management. And 6 months later, the company folded. I didn't know that going into it, but it was already on the way out. But I felt that I can make this work because of my drive. But it doesn't matter how much I can do if I didn't have the proper guidance. If the company had problems, it wasn't going to progress. So that's the first thing. Number two, let's say you're in a good environment. The company is good, it's stable, and so forth. Your management just actually sucked. What I would then do is I would go and find an individual within that organization that's doing well, and I'd make that sacrifice and take them to lunch once a week. I know it sounds completely simple and silly obvious, but it's true. Like if somebody could sit down with you and connect with them once a week, and obviously some of the greats, they're not going to be, they're going to be busy, but if that's going to be you getting to work at 7 o'clock in the morning so you can talk to them, or staying after at 5:30 so you can talk to them for a little bit, I want to make sure I can learn as much as I possibly can from that individual, and specifically, I want to learn about what's in their playbook. They're not going to see me as a competitor per se, at least I hope not. Especially if we have territories and they're maybe doing enterprise and I'm doing like mid-market outreach, I want to be able to get from them what do I need to know that I don't know. And let me give you an example of this. I worked at a software company, and Ian, God bless you, I appreciate you. Ian was actually in the customer service department, and what Ian said, he said it in a way that was more of like annoying, because he was tired of the sales rep bringing these deals to the table that weren't great. But I would never have known this. He said, Donald, do us a favor. Don't go and sell to these type of customers. And it took me back. I'm like, what? He's like, sell to this type of customer. These ones always use the software, they never complain, and they're a good fit for our organization. It wasn't the smallest companies, it wasn't the large, because we're selling to governments at this point and city county councils. It wasn't selling to like city of LA. It was like that, city of I don't know, like Waco, Texas. They're a good size fit. They have money, they have funding. It's not going to be a lot of bureaucracy to go through it. But Ian taught me this, and I was like, this is amazing. And that's how I was able to close a lot more deals. But it's things that I don't know that I need to know. What do I don't know that I don't understand? And if I can go to a senior person in my company and get that type of information, that's going to be fantastic. So again, that's my step number two. Find somebody that I can learn from. Step number three, and again, pay for it. You don't want to waste your time. Pay for their lunch. Give them a $50 Uber Eats so they can pay for their dinner or whatever for their family. But give them something in exchange for that wealth of knowledge you're going to be getting, because you're going to see the results. Number three, if your company don't have this, I highly recommend getting accountability. So I would find other peers, and with LinkedIn or platforms like this, there's Slack channels and groups out there. You can find others that you can have as have to guide you. I was a part of a mastermind, and that's one of the easiest things that's helped me to be able to raise my level without necessarily investing it wasn't like tons of money, but I found other people that were at my level or above, and what they were doing, we were learning from each other. And then that accountability just kept me to a whole nother level, to where now I didn't want to show up every week and sound with an empty hand, be like, dang it, Doug, I didn't do anything. I didn't book any appointment last week. I'm going to do everything I can to come back next week, because I know Doug is going to come and say how he got 2 appointments booked in his industry. I need to come and do this. But that accountability does a lot to a seller. And that's all of those things are pretty much free so far. And then the third thing is that obviously if you're going to go into some kind of a fourth thing, go into some kind of payment programs, there are plenty of them out there, whether they're small groups or they're Slack communities, or whether they're training programs like us. You can find some of those. They're very easy, and you can go to credible sources to get referrals, whether that's companies like you guys or Salesforce or whatnot, HubSpot. All of these have credible referrals that you can get access to. And even if you went to LinkedIn and just ask a community, or if you're in a part of a Slack channel with other sellers and ask them any programs out there, you're going to probably hear a slew of them, and then you can do that. But that's what I would do if I was that beginner rep. And then as far as podcasts, you can't go wrong. I think right now there are probably over 200, close to 300 sales podcasts that are out there. So you can't really go wrong with that. There's a lot of good intel. When it's all said and done, I feel like there's tomato and tomato, right? Somebody may say, Lisa may say, this is the way that I do cold calling. Jake may say, this is the way I do cold calling. Take from them and apply and practice. I don't feel that there's a silver bullet that if you use this call script, it's going to generate millions of dollars for you. If that's the case, then all the other companies in the world would fail. But, there are a lot of companies out there doing well. They have strategies, so adopt, try. But that's what I would do. And that's what I have done.
I love the graduated approach, the like step by step. Let's start here, and then if this doesn't work, this is the next thing you do, and then this is the next thing you do. Because I think what you ended with is there is so much out there that if you're gonna make sure you're at the right place. If you're not, put yourself in a better situation. If you're in a situation you want to be in, find that rep and learn by osmosis from them. Learn the way that we do it before you seek something externally. Because your last point of like, Jake can say cold call this way and Doug can say this way, and they both can work, right? And this strategy can work in this industry with this size company, and this strategy can work in this size industry with that size company, and they can be complete opposites. So like understanding what works for the job that you're in is really smart. And by talking to your peers, taking them out to lunch, then finding Slack channels with people that are kind of like you is really smart. Doug, what would you add to that?
Something that is often not talked enough about, and again, it kind of goes back to I think a lot of people don't know how to actually do this, but find a mentor. Like, I think, first of all, I think this is kind of a foreign concept to a lot of people, mentorship. Probably something we should all talk about at Peak as an example of like, if you're a frontline sales leader, you can be a mentor to other, to top performers or to other frontline sales leaders. If you've been a frontline sales leader 4 or 5 years, someone is newly stepping into the position. If you're newly stepping into a position, go find that frontline sales leader that's been successful, that's been doing it for a handful of years, that has a perspective that you'd love to learn from. The challenge is most people don't really understand the mentor-mentee relationship and how to get the most out of it. It's similar to an advisor to a CEO role, right? Where it's like, hey, I'm here to help, guide you in whatever way you feel like you need guidance, but you as the mentee need to lead the conversation. Don't expect me as the mentor to come to every conversation with, here are the topics I want to discuss with you. If you're asking me to be your mentor, come to me on a set schedule, maybe once a month. And like, here are the 3 things I want to discuss and I want to get your perspective on. The mentor-mentee relationship is insanely powerful. I have a handful of mentees that I've been working with for, close to a decade. They've been insanely successful. They've transitioned from mentor-mentee to now just friends. And now we just, stay in touch and keep connected on different social media platforms, but also we just kind of check in professionally every now and again. And there's still the opportunity for perspective even now, a decade later, right? So I think it's a great opportunity when you're getting started is find the people. Don't go reaching out to Donald. Be like, Donald, will you be my mentor? That's like you're a new BDR. That's not fully appropriate. But you're a new BDR. Find other people that were a BDR, that have been successful, that have made their transition to AE, and be like, hey, will you be my mentor? Can we try this out? And I think part of it is because people need to understand the guidelines and what it takes actually to be a mentor or mentee. But don't be afraid of it. But I think, as far as like some content, it's also a great way to transition into management leadership role too. As a mentor is like, okay, now you're starting to understand what that coaching relationship looks and feels like, and where you don't actually have to bring the agenda. Maybe you bring some things you want to talk about, like, hey, let's have a conversation about kind of AI tools and technology that you're using, because I want to get your thoughts on it. And I have my own opinion and perspective about it. But it's a great way for both mentor and mentee to work on their coaching skills.
Man, that relationship is special. Like the second you said the word mentor, I thought of mine, and I just thought of how impactful that person is in my life. So doing that for someone else, it truly is rewarding. One last question, in less than 3 sentences, Donald, we'll start with you. I'm going to put myself in someone else's shoes. I'm a random sales manager, and I'm thinking about buying a ticket to Peak 2024. Why should I buy a ticket, Donald?
All right. The reason, only 3?
If you go over, it's all right.
The reason why you want to buy a ticket that's not a part of my stuff. I'm just answering. I'm stating the question. The reason why you want to buy a ticket to Peak is the intimate setting that it has. Doug mentioned this idea of mentorship. You're not going to get lost in a crowd at a big conference that takes over a whole city out west. You're going to be in an intimate situation with the speakers, with the team, with other leaders, and you get a chance to connect. And there's also natural ways for you to be able to build that relationship if you're not outgoing, whether it's like sitting down talking to someone, or whether it's bowling, or whether it's the happy hour. Their natural state situation built in to foster this intimate communication. And that's what I love about it. I go to conferences and I learn from the speakers. I learn way more from the people that I can talk to in the hallway or sit down with or chill. And there's ample opportunities for that in an intimate situation.
Donald, this is the first time we're agreeing. I'm like, dude, you literally took the words out of my. It's the coolest. Look, it's a combination of insights and actionable content that you can actually use right away and apply it, combined with an intimate setting where you can actually share, like, hey, well, what are your thoughts about what Donald shared? Have you applied any of that? Have you used that? I'm curious to know your thoughts. I still keep in touch with many people. In fact, Jen Allen, that was the first time we'd actually met in person, was at Peak. And Donald, this is gonna be the first time we meet in person. It's so, I think the interesting thing is, and John Barrows and I had this conversation. John and I go way back. And we had this interesting conversation about Peak and why we both continue to come back. Nashville is a special place. Ambition is a special company. You all know how to make us all feel warm, welcome, and comfortable, regardless of our experience and our skill level, gray hair or not, new to the role, new to your organization, or you've been around for a long time. It doesn't matter. We're all equal. We're all the same. There are no bad questions. There is no kind of off limits topics except for politics. And at the end of the day, it's just like we're all there to learn from each other and kind of share in this community, and it is a very cool, small, and intimate feeling. So like, and it's insane the talent that you all pull to come to this event to participate, because you're like, it's not an easy trek for many of us, but we do it for a reason. It's because of the people.
Yeah. Donald Kelly, Doug Landis, thank you so much for joining today. Can't wait to see y'all in October.